Governments around the world are rolling out digital IDs, and Western governments in particular are tying those Western IDs to pretty much everything that you do. They want to control you. The average person in your country probably thinks this is convenient and it's harmless, and the government's looking out for your best interests. But if you value privacy and freedom and sovereignty, this is something that you need to pay attention to. And I'm going to give you a different angle that you probably haven't heard anywhere else. The reality is my team gave me a whole bunch of stuff on digital ID. We're just going to get rid of all of that because I just want to talk pretty directly about what I think about this. First, what digital ID actually is. It's a government-verified identity. Everything's stored digitally, connects to your banking and financial accounts. What could possibly go wrong with that? They use it for health care. Again, what could they possibly do wrong having a bunch of bureaucrats knowing your health details? Your tax, your travel, what benefits you get, licensing, everything is there. They're implementing that with biometrics, face, fingerprint, voice, all of that. Basically designed to centralize your entire identity into one gateway. Now, do any of us who live in the Western world, or in my case used to live in the Western world, actually think that a Western government, the same one that makes you wait in 3 queues to get a driver's license, and the whole process takes all day, do we actually think that any of those Western governments are actually doing this because they want to make our lives easier or better or make it easier to access government services? Probably not. It's power-hungry politicians who want to make their lives easier. They want to wet their beaks on whatever contracts they're getting from their crony friends in big business. And they want to track you and spy on you more. We have proof that governments like those of the United States actually do spy on their own citizens. They want to know more about you. Simple as that. They don't want to make your life easier. And I don't think any of us really believe that life will be easier by the government centralizing all this stuff. It'll be easier for them to bother you and harass you and blacklist you and cancel your passport and have all kinds of data to make your life tough. But I want to take a different view on this than most people, because there's 2 fundamental beliefs I think a lot of people where I'm from in the United States have that are mistaken. The first one is, oh, well, you just need to go to a red state. Americans have this great fascination with, you're in a red state, you're going to be fine. This stuff is happening at a national level. If you live in the European Union, it's happening at a block level where they're going to dictate on high from what happens to you. But the other misconception is, well, this happens everywhere. Everyone's doing it. The reality is Western countries are doing this. Even the reddest of red states of Alaska are talking about their own intrusive digital ID. They talk about things like programmable money, programmable identity. But here's the thing that they won't talk about. Here's the thing that almost no one's talking about that I've seen living all around the world. This is cultural. And so the problem is trying to stay and fix the system, thinking that, hey, if we only stay and vote in the right politicians, that's going to solve it. Look at what's happening in the UK right now. Basically, everybody is not looking out for you, especially if you're an entrepreneur. But no matter what you are, if you care about privacy and sovereignty, pretty much every political party is hitting on you from some different angle. The same thing's true where I'm from in the United States. You think, oh, the left wing will save us, or the right wing will save us. They each have their own ways of basically taking away your freedom, taking away your privacy for their own different reasons. So voting in different politicians isn't going to save it. Standing around and fighting for democracy is not going to save it. What's going to save it is what I've always told you, go where you're treated best. And the reason why that's the case is that this is not systemic. It's cultural. The West has a compliance culture where everything becomes a rule, every rule becomes a system, every system becomes enforcement, every enforcement becomes digital, and this is why even convenience tools eventually become control tools. That was the goal all along, and their systems are built for it. In the West, efficiency and compliance always merge. That's the root problem. And those Western governments, well, I've been telling you for years, they believe their citizens need to be managed because fundamentally they believe that they own you. Just look at your passport. It's owned by the government. And so when the U.S. government says, hey, if we believe you haven't paid your taxes, we're going to cancel your passport and we're going to stop you from traveling, they can do that. In the UK, when even quasi-right-wing figures said, hey, if you have any kind of criminal conviction, the kind of thing that we control and we can make anything a crime, and by the way, there's even like petty crimes like bar fights, hey, any of those things, maybe we should just cancel your passport and just make you stay here on this island. Western governments believe fundamentally in their culture that they own you. That's the reason that the U.S. can impose citizenship-based taxation. No matter where you go in the world, you have to file a tax return. Now, we help our clients dramatically reduce it, in some cases even eliminate their taxes as Americans by moving overseas. We help Canadians and Brits and Australians and Germans and everybody else simply leave their country and pay tax wherever they want. There are ways to get out, but your government believes that they are a paternalistic force that has to control you, and they frame everything as safety and fraud prevention and terrorism prevention, and they keep looking for more and more reasons throughout my lifetime and yours, because the subtext is always the same. We know better than you. And so what I think a lot of people in the West imagine is that's simply how it works everywhere. And the reason we pick on the West, and the reason in particular we pick on the English-speaking West, the Anglosphere, is because they operate differently from the rest of the world. Now, you can say, listen, those cultures that have those levels of efficiency has fed into, that's why we have some of the great people that you can employ to build your companies. And that's why we have Meta and Google and all these companies start here. Forgetting the fact, by the way, that many of those companies were started by folks who moved to the United States. Those folks may not move to the United States going forward. They might move to Dubai or Singapore instead. But okay, the United States and other Western countries have been environments where companies and business can flourish because of their organization and because of their efficiency. But that argument's being eroded now. I run a global business, and I don't do it from any Western country. In fact, I don't do it entirely with a Western staff. And so what we're seeing now is the countries that are less organized are improving in quality, not only in terms of the people that you can hire there, in terms of their ability of a place to live, but they're not changing their game on having tax flexibility or leaving you the hell alone because of their culture. And so when it comes to digital ID, the perfect way to protect yourself from this is to escape the culture that wants to use it against you. For any criticism you might have about the UAE, things actually function. Systems are integrated in a way that benefits you. The same thing happens in places like Singapore. Why? These countries actually want to benefit their citizens. They want to benefit their residents. In places like the Gulf, they realize if we don't make it easy and if we don't have a unique selling proposition, people simply aren't going to come here. And we want people to come here because we're doing the same playbook that the West, and in particular the United States, did so many years ago. The same playbook they've given up on. We want people to come, so we're going to roll out the red carpet and make ourselves an attractive place to come. That culture used to exist in the West, where perhaps the government actually wanted to serve you. But as they say, America is not a place, it's a concept, and America has gone somewhere else. The American dream in the United States is dead. It's alive in other places in the world that have that culture. And so the West deputizes private companies as police. When you go to the bank, when you go to the airlines, when you go to the payment processor, they're all going to force the government rules. And so when people have told me, I'll just get around the rules, I'll pay with crypto, or I'll do this, or I'll do that, Walmart is not going to let you get around the rules. American Airlines is not going to let you get around the rules. And digital ID will make that enforcement instant and automatic. So as the West centralizes, what I've found from all my years of living around the world is that the global South generally decentralizes almost by accident. Now, I'm not going to say that every country outside of the West is great. There are plenty that aren't great. But I want you to look at this as the entrepreneur, the investor, the successful person that we work with as clients at Nomad Capitalist. Go to nomadcapitalist.com/apply. What Americans often get all uppity about is everyone wants to move here, which isn't even really true anymore. It's dramatically been changing the last 10 to 15 years since I've been doing this. But who are the people who still do want to move to the United States? Many of them are folks from Central America or Venezuela or places where people are either being persecuted and they need somewhere to go, ideally getting there on land, or they have unsafe conditions in their country. Perhaps you could argue in Central America, driven by the U.S. drug war, pushing it through their countries, but that's beside the point. Or because they have very low salaries. Having people who move to your country to become housekeepers and day laborers, as much as I dramatically respect anyone who works hard, that's not an indication that your country is great. What we've seen, though, is You can move to El Salvador. Plenty of people in the Bitcoin community have. They've moved to Bitcoin Beach, for example, and they found, hey, in that little enclave, El Salvador is a great place to live. The country has gotten cleaned up. It's much safer. People live in Honduras. Continental Honduras, not a safe place to live. The island of Roatan, English speaking, safe. People are happy there. There's places in a lot of these countries that people are leaving that you might think, hey, I wouldn't want to live there, where you could live. Or you could simply write off all those countries and say, you know what, there's a lot of places in the global south, like the places that I live, where, hey, I'm sure the average person isn't doing quite as well as the average American, although that's changing rapidly too, as all the different issues in the West bear their ugly head. But hey, if I'm successful, I can move to Panama or Colombia or Malaysia or Serbia or Mauritius or any number of places around the world that are willing to roll out the red carpet for you, and I can have a nice life. But what am I not going to get? I'm not going to get a culture where digital ID is going to be thrust on me. Yes, there are some places in the global south where they're doing that, but in many cases, they're too disorganized and they've got other priorities, and the countries are small in many cases, and they actually have they realize, like, hey, power's fragile here. We don't have like the world's biggest military by, times 10 to go and harass everybody and send the National Guard in. Like, we actually, look at some of these countries, look at Africa, and look at, we just, overthrew a coup in Benin. You think governments like that are thinking, how do we screw with our citizens so they can throw us out of power? It's just not in the DNA the same way it is in countries that have ruled the world since the war or for even hundreds of years, where their internal culture in the government is, you can screw with citizens. And as my favorite California Governor Gavin Newsom said, where are you going to go? That's literally their attitude. The politicians in other places, no, you can go somewhere. And so even among the Western countries, one that I've kind of highlighted, if you want to go and get a Western passport and in a very tax-friendly way, is Ireland, because at least Ireland has in their DNA a culture of emigration where it's like, hey, we got to have low taxes because we need a reason to attract people to our country. And sure, they'll go along with higher taxes for Meta and Google, but they're keeping their pretty low taxes on corporations. They're keeping their non-dom tax regime. Why? Because they realize people come and go. In a country like that, you're generally going to be better off. Now, you can argue that Ireland under the European Union may have some issues, but go and look at all the countries in the global south where they have bureaucracies that are fragmented, chaotic. That gives you more freedom. And so I think people have this idea in their head that they're going to be some guy living in a jungle somewhere in a tent, far detached from reality. Yes, the government everywhere wants to assert some sort of power over you. But if you look at smaller countries, if you look at more developing countries, and if you look at countries that know where their bread is buttered, i.e. they have a golden visa program, they've got a special tax regime, any of these kind of things give you evidence of what the current culture of the country is. There's a long-term culture, as in most of the global south. Why screw with people? Why bother people? Why get in people's way? Mind your own business. Don't do anything wrong. We're going to leave you alone. That's not how it works in the Western world. You post something on social media, the police in the UK come to your door. You do one little thing wrong in the US, the cops come and knock on your door. They bother you. Australia, the same thing. This is the country that wouldn't even let its own citizens back in during a pandemic, violating the very nature of what citizenship is supposed to be all about. These countries have a culture of, do what we say or we're going to punish you. How dare you? Other countries are, hey, you're one of our citizens and we're just here to like stop people from doing bad stuff. And they don't focus so much on the terrorism, the extremism, or the misinformation that is the constant justification in the West. And so this is why I've been telling you, you want to have residence permits and passports, plan B, C, D, E, F, as far as you want to go in these types of countries. And you want to be distributed. When I started this business, it was get a second passport, have a backup plan. Now it's, hey, Africa kind of pushed back on the pandemic. They pushed back on multinational taxation and global minimum tax. They're pushing back on the West in this way. They're not accepting, ESG. Hey, Asia's doing this. Latin America's doing that. you want to be able to move because there's the long-term culture, which I generally believe in most of the global South, not all, is leave people alone. You can point to Iran, you can point to North Korea. Believe me, I know people who go, I know the best people who go to Iran, and they say, hey, it's not nearly what you think. There's a lot of otherizing going on of other cultures, but sure, you're probably not going to choose to move to Iran. But let's stop using Iran as the example. I live in Georgia part of the year. I've spent a significant time in Armenia. I own a home in Istanbul. That part of the world near Iran, I spend time in, and I feel a lot less bothered. And when I, in Georgia, take my ID card and I go to the public service hall, I can get anything I need in 15 minutes. The government actually serves me. You want to get a marriage record or a company printout, or you want to transfer a title for a home, you can do it for, tens of dollars in under an hour. It was actually built to serve people. And sure, they've started putting a few things in place that people are saying, this is a police state. It's 1/100th of what's happening in the United States. And so, you can say, sure, countries that do this, maybe there's a slippery slope. And maybe that's generally kind of how things go, which is why I think you want to have options, because let's say in 30 years, maybe Georgia does the wrong thing, maybe it doesn't. But if it does, what are your other plans? And so you want to have multiple residences, multiple passports to where you have places that you can go. And if you do this, these countries are not going to have the kind of data on you that your home country does, because they're not using terrorism and extremism and all the rubbish that the Western world uses. The Western world is about if you have nothing to hide, nothing to fear. They believe the government should fix everything and that more rules make us safer. That's why digital ID, that's why CBDCs, that's why all these things will thrive in the West, whereas the global South is live and let live. People don't want the government in their lives. Please, I beg of you, go to the Balkans and tell someone you're going to do all the stuff that you're doing in the US and the UK and see how people react to that. That's how you disappear from the messiness of Western life, is finding places where the culture is not creating that punishment. Freedom grows in the cracks of imperfection, not in obscene rule following. You can get out of that and still live an ethical and legal life in the global South. It's what Nomad Capitalist helps our clients do. We can help you establish your residences, passports, bank accounts, asset protection plan, hiring plan, setting up your company in the places that treat you the best, in the places that make you feel free, in the places that make you feel like you are still in control of your own life. Literally wrote the book about it. Go to nomadcapitalist.com/apply, learn how we can help you. Stop believing that the red states are going to save you, and stop believing that staying in your country and fighting is going to do anything.